Hey there, and a very warm welcome. If you're a landlord or an agent here in the UK, a really big change is just around the corner, and you absolutely need to be ready for it. I'm talking, of course, about Making Tax Digital. To help you get your head around all of it, the experts over at My Tax Accountant have put together this essential guide. Our goal today is simple: give you the clarity and the confidence you need to master this new system. So let's get right into it. So let's kick things off with the most important question of all. Are your property finances truly ready for April 2026? I know, it might sound like it's a ways off, but as we're now well into late 2025, that deadline is coming up much faster than you think. Getting prepared now is absolutely the secret to a smooth, stress-free transition. So you might be wondering, why is all this happening anyway? Well, it all boils down to this one huge number: £5 billion. That's the estimated tax gap. You know, the difference between the tax that's owed and what HMRC actually collects. A massive chunk of that gap, believe it or not, comes from simple, honest mistakes on self-assessment returns. So Making Tax Digital, or MTD, isn't just a small tweak. It's a huge strategic overhaul to make the whole system more accurate and efficient. To help make sense of it all, here's a quick look at what we're covering. We'll start with what MTD actually is, then we'll figure out if you're on the list. We'll unpack HMRC's own toolkit and give you a practical step-by-step action plan. And crucially, we'll look at the common pitfalls and penalties to avoid. Then we'll wrap up by showing you where to get expert help so you don't have to go it alone. Okay, let's dive into our first section, MTD, the big tax shakeup. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we report tax in the UK, so it's really important to understand what's changing and exactly why it matters to you. At its heart, Making Tax Digital is really about one thing: ending that mad last-minute dash to file your annual tax return. The new system means you have to keep digital records of your income and your expenses, and then you send a summary update to HMRC every single quarter using approved software. So think of it as swapping one giant, stressful deadline for a much more manageable, continuous process. And hey, while it's a new rule, there are some real benefits. Better digital records when you have a live view of your finances, which is amazing for cash flow planning and can even make it easier to get things like a mortgage. And listen, if you're feeling a bit worried about all this, you are definitely not alone. A recent survey found that a whopping 76% of sole traders, and that includes landlords, feel anxious about MTD. And on top of that, about a third of them feel they just haven't gotten enough information from HMRC. This really shows how much clear guidance is needed to turn that anxiety into confident action. And make no mistake, this is not a niche issue affecting just a few people. The very first wave of MTT for income tax, which hits in 2026, is set to affect an incredible 780,000 landlords and sole traders. That is a huge number of people who need to get their financial houses in order, and the clock is definitely ticking. Which brings us to the most critical question of all: are you on the list? In this next section, we are going to cover the key dates and income thresholds that you absolutely cannot afford to ignore. Okay, you'll want to pay close attention here. This timeline is your guide. From April 2026, if your total gross income from your property or self-employment is over £50,000, you're in. Simple as that. A year later, in April 2027, that threshold drops to £30,000, and the plan is for it to drop again to $20,000 in April 2028. Now, the most important word there is gross income. That's your total rental income before you deduct any expenses. It's such a common mistake, so please keep that number in mind. So, who's in and who's out? Well, MTT for income tax applies to sole traders and unincorporated landlords. Now, if you run your property business as a limited company, you're exempt from this particular scheme, and you'll just carry on with corporation tax as normal. Trustees and non-resident companies also get a pass. Knowing which box you fit into is step one. And here's a little pro tip for you, especially if you're a joint landlord, because this trips a lot of people up. The income thresholds apply to your individual share of the gross rental income. So let's say you and a partner own a property together that brings in £80,000 a year, and you split it right down the middle, 50-50. Well, for MTD purposes, your individual share is £40,000. That means you'd actually be exempt from the 2026 deadline, but you would absolutely have to be ready for that £30,000 threshold in 2027. See how that works? So, knowing all that, where on earth do you begin? Well, that's where HMRC's official MTD Toolkit comes in. You can think of it as the official instruction manual, designed specifically to help landlords and agents like you get through this transition as smoothly as possible. So what's actually inside this toolkit? It's not just some dry, boring document, I promise. You get a really clear overview of the changes, a super practical checklist for agents, and helpful how-to videos and webinars you can watch whenever you want. There are even printable reminders and a fantastic FAQ section that tackles those tricky questions, like how the joint ownership rules work. It's designed to be genuinely helpful. And there's a real incentive to get on this now. HMRC's Director of MTD, Craig Ogilvie, has been very clear. If you join the voluntary testing phase early, you get access to dedicated support. You get a chance to iron out all the kinks in your new digital process long before it's mandatory. It's basically a penalty-free practice run. Why wouldn't you take it? Okay, so we know what the toolkit is. Now let's turn all of that theory into practice. This section is all about your action plan, the real concrete steps you can start taking today. To keep it simple, we've broken it down into 6 manageable steps. First, assess your gross income to figure out which deadline applies to you. Second, choose an MTD-compatible software that actually fits your needs. Third, and this is a big one, start keeping digital records now. Don't wait. Fourth, we strongly recommend you join that voluntary testing phase. Fifth, you'll link your software directly to HMRC. And finally, you'll plan your new workflow for those quarterly updates. Choosing your software is a pretty big decision. This table gives you a quick snapshot of a few popular choices. You've got Xero, which is fantastic for landlords with multiple properties. It can handle more complex stuff. Then there's QuickBooks, which is famously user-friendly, making it a great place to start for new landlords. And you've also got specialist software like Hammock, which is designed from the ground up for smaller-scale landlords, often bundling property management tools right in with the accounting. Now, let's talk money. What's this all going to cost? Well, HMRC estimates that the average one-off transitional cost for landlords will be around £285. This covers things like setting up your software and maybe getting some initial advice. It's a really key figure to have in your budget as you get started. And here's another fantastic tip to help with that cost. Every single penny you spend getting MTD ready is a fully tax-deductible business expense. That includes your software subscription, any fees you pay an accountant to help you set up, and even training. Just be sure you keep good records of these costs so you can claim them back. Okay, we've covered the plan. Now we need to talk about what can go wrong. Stay with me here, because understanding the common pitfalls and the penalties is absolutely crucial if you want to avoid some very costly mistakes. These are the top 4 mistakes we see people make time and time again. First, that classic error, mixing up gross income and profit. Second, trying to make do with non-compliant software. Sorry, but your old spreadsheet just won't cut it anymore. Third, missing those strict quarterly submission deadlines. And fourth, on the flip side, not using this new system to your advantage and forgetting to claim every single allowable expense you're entitled to. So what happens if you miss a deadline? Well, the penalties start at £100 for a single missed submission. Now that might not sound like a lot, but it works on a points-based system and it can escalate with every single failure. If you miss a few, those £100 fines can quickly stack up over the year, turning a small slip-up into a pretty big financial headache. And to show you just how serious this can be, check out this real-life example. A landlord down in Devon was hit with a £1,500 penalty. Why? Simply for using software that wasn't MTD compliant, meaning it couldn't send the data to HMRC correctly. This is a completely avoidable situation, and it's a powerful reminder of why getting your setup right from day one is so important. Right. After hearing about all those pitfalls, you might be feeling some of that anxiety we talked about earlier. But this brings us to our final and maybe our most important point. You do not have to do this alone. Expert help is out there. The key takeaway here is that navigating Making Tax Digital does not have to be stressful. In fact, with the right professional guidance, it can actually be an opportunity to streamline your entire financial process. The right expert doesn't just tick the compliance box. They help you build real confidence in your numbers. And that idea is right at the heart of what My Tax Accountant is all about. As their CEO, Maz Zahir, says, their mission is to empower taxpayers just like you to handle these obligations with total clarity and confidence. It's all about turning a complex requirement into a simple, manageable process for you. Now, it is really important for me to share this quick disclaimer. The information we've discussed today is for general guidance only. Tax rules are complicated and they can change, so you shouldn't rely on this alone to make financial decisions. We always recommend consulting a qualified professional, like the team at My Tax Accountant, for advice that's tailored specifically to you and your situation. If you're ready to get ahead of the curve and make sure your transition to Making Tax Digital is totally stress-free, then please reach out for professional help today. You can call the team at My Tax Accountant on 020-857-8531, or you can drop them an email at info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk. For even more detail, you can read their full article on this very topic on their blog, and hey, don't forget to subscribe to their YouTube channel for more great updates. So, I'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. With that April 2026 deadline getting closer every single day, is your tax strategy truly ready for the digital future? Thanks so much for watching.